Well, good morning, everyone. Thomas Montgomery here. We get together most weekday mornings at this time to talk with our distribution partners at 8 a.m. Central, talk about strategies, tips, techniques, share success stories, and support each of you. So with that being said, we want to, I guess, just cover the basics today. We want to make sure that you understand how we help small businesses, what we do, why we do it, and of course, how you benefit. So let's start with any questions that you have, and then I'll go through an overview, but many of you have heard the overview before. All right, Reginald has the first. He says, I have a new client for the business startup. Great job, Reginald. And he's asking for how to process the client. So that's a great question. So as each of you came aboard as a branch distribution partner, and if you've not done that, you're welcome to do so. So I'm on chapmanloanprogram.org under grant resources. The very bottom one is where to come in. Now, Original's already with us, but Original asks, well, what do I do? So the first thing that will happen is when you sign up, we will onboard you. You'll get an email, and that email has a number of resources, one of which is an editable client agreement. So the first thing that Original, you or anyone else would do is get the client under contract with you. Now, the beautiful thing about being what we call a branch office is the contract is between you and the client. So you get to pick what the terms, conditions, prices are. So first thing you want to do is get the client under contract. Once you have that client under contract, then you'll want to collect from them. You might say, well, how much do I collect from them? Well, it kind of depends. Let's look at two different scenarios. One scenario, which is the norm, is that because of the grant, the startup business funding package is reduced. The cost to the client is reduced in half. So what do I mean by that? So instead of the client paying the full $5,000, what happens is that the grant covers half and the participant pays you, Reginald, or the branch, all of you who are branches. We have 419 of you on this morning. So any of you that's currently a branch office, again, take the editable agreement, get the client under contract, and the client pays you. Then you might ask, well, what happens next? And that's really where Reginald is. He's got the client sign. What do we do now? Great question. So what we normally do is set up a Dropbox folder for each of you. Now, we may not set it up until you have your first client because there's really no purpose of it, but we'll set up a Dropbox folder that's shared, and it didn't cost anything, and it's essentially like a virtual file folder. So everything that is put in there, you can see, we can see, and it's better than emailing documents back and forth. So the first thing that you would do, Reginald and others, when you have a client under contract, is upload that executed contract into the Dropbox. The second thing is then we split the money you collected, which again, normally the package is $5,000. Normally the grant allocation is $2,500, which leaves the client to normally pay $2,500. So you keep half, you send us half, and we do all the work. And so normally we'll send an invoice over, and then you would pay the invoice. So then we would get to work. The beauty is our team handles all of the implementation. So it's not time consuming. Once you've educated a client, brought the client in, we do all the work. So with that being said, Reginald, you would want to upload the agreement to your Dropbox if you have that. If not, we can help you with that, and then we'll invoice and you'd pay us our half. So that's scenario one. Scenario two would be if the client wants to use the buy now, pay later financing. So it starts the same. You still educate the prospect, you still get them under contract. It's the same contract, again, between you and them. But then instead of collecting $2,500, which is the 5,000 minus the grant allocation, which leaves the participant paying 2,500. Instead of that, you could collect just 500 from them, a down payment. And then we could set them up on the buy now, pay later financing, which is 0% interest. Can't beat that. However, that delays you and us from getting paid by 30 days. So it's better if the client pays up front, but if the client doesn't have the wherewithal or the willingness, it's okay. Collect the 500, obviously get them under contract, collect the 500, you keep half, send us half. And then the unfortunate thing is you're waiting 30 days for us to get the rest. So very good, very practical question, Original, and I'll certainly follow up with you after our Zoom. But that's a very practical question. That's kind of why we get together each morning, because I can go through the website until I'm blue in the face. Many of you are familiar with this. If not, the page is rather self-explanatory, but it's to answer questions. So does anyone else have any specific questions? Again, like Reginald had a great one. What do I do when I have a client under contract? Anyone have any other questions before I go back and proceed? Okay, so let's go back to the what and the why. If you have any questions, just type it into the Q&A. So why is this? Well, I'm going to give you a quick story. So I had a client, she signed up yesterday. She emailed this morning. She said, I don't need this, out of the blue. And so I called her this morning and I said, I apologize. I did not know that your business is already fundable. I apologize. You shouldn't have been allowed to enroll in this. You're ready to go to funding now. You don't need help becoming fundable, right? Yeah. I said, okay, can I ask you a few questions? So then I asked her very, very politely, just a few kind of penetrating questions about, well, tell me a little bit about your trade lines, your business credit profile, your payday score. And it was like a deer in the headlights. Okay, tell me a little bit about your balance sheet, and do you have collateral? Deer in the headlights. So there's an example of a client. She made it to us, which is awesome. She signed up, which is great. I don't think she probably took the time to complete step one, so she wasn't as educated as she needed to be, but she signed up. So after a brief discussion and getting her up to speed of what it takes to be a fundable business, she agreed, and she's wiring in the money today. So education is key. But I do realize a lot of entrepreneurs are busy. They're not really interested in learning. They just want the results. But there's a bit of a leap there to think I can just want money, or I can just need money, and I can just get money. It doesn't work like that. We have to be fundable. So that's what you and I do, right? We help people because of the grant, assist people with a startup business funding package to create a fundable business. Now, her beef was, oh, I already have some of this. I don't need this. I already have an EIN, she said. I said, well, that's great. We'll skip that step. Right? Fine. She already has a business. I don't need this. Great. But the problem that you and I may run into, and I had some conversations with some of you where you'll make this mistake thinking, if I have one or two of these things, I'm fundable. No, this is the list of what we need to be fundable. And we can't just, cherry pick, oh, I have one or two things, I'm ready to go to funding. No, this is proven. It doesn't matter what you think, and it doesn't matter what I think. This is specifically what it takes to have a fundable business. And you'll run into that. People are moving fast, they're skimming, they're multitasking, and they don't understand. So now she's satisfied, she's excited, she's very pleased she enrolled, where she was ready to quit this morning because she wasn't properly educated coming in. So what does it take to have a fundable business? The first thing is we need a true, unique commercial address. And because of the grant, we provide that for free. They can't be using a residential address, a post office box, or a shared office address. And in fact, some lenders now are not only just looking for an address, they're looking for documentation of the address. They want a copy of the lease. So we can, of course, provide that, as well as optional mail forwarding. The second thing that's needed for a fundable business, of course, is to be filed with the Secretary of State. And so because of the grant, we will do that for the participants for free. They don't have to pay someone to do it. They don't have to pay the filing fees. Next, we help them get their EIN, and then from there go open their business bank account, because these three items create kind of the foundation of a business. I would argue if you don't have all three of these, you really don't have a true business. You have some skeletons, some fragments of a business. But that's not enough to get funding. And this is where so many people have not been educated. You know these things. I know these things, but the average person doesn't. They think, oh, okay, great. I've got a business. I'm ready for business funding. You're not going to get much at all, if anything, of business funding off of those three alone. But we need those three to become fundable. So the next thing that we do, so we work through these in order, by the way. I know it's just bullets, not numbered, but we go in order. So then the next thing that we want to do is to look at the business credit profile of the business. So we have to understand and come to agreement. Business credit's different than personal credit. I would say it's better, but ignoring opinion, it's different. It operates different. The business credit profile is going to be like Dun & Bradstreet or Experian Business, Equifax Business. So this is available to the public without permission, right? So we've got Adam on here. Adam has great credit, but the world can't go see Adam's credit without him authorizing it. It's illegal. But anyone can go look at the business credit of any business. So it's really public information. Now, the public probably didn't care much about it, but any prospective lender does. What happens also with business credit is you'll have a default profile that is almost always incomplete. Maybe the industry code is not there, or it's not right. Maybe the number of employees, the website, the phone number, the address, any of those elements could be either missing or wrong. So the business doesn't look as solid as it should. So the first thing that we do is work with the client to make sure that their business credit profile is optimized. Then, secondly, we go add free trade lines. And I'm telling you, this is a hot topic alone. If you're one of our distribution partners, I bet you could enroll an average of 1 to 2 clients every day just because of this bold element of one bullet. So even though we're doing all of this, this alone is something to attract a lot of people. They want trade lines. They want trade lines. Well, we help them add trade lines, real trade lines that post typically to all 3 bureaus. So after we have the address and the Secretary of State and the EIN, and again, if they have these things, that's fine. Then we'll use what they have. We're not asking them to fix something that's not broke. Then we want to make sure that the business credit profile is strong. She didn't have that, the lady from this morning. That's fine. We'll fix that. Last thing we need to do before we go to funding is we need to make sure that our balance sheet is strong. A lot of small businesses don't have a balance sheet. Unlike you and I, a lot of people don't even know what a balance sheet is or what's on. But we're going to help them create a lender compliant balance sheet that shows businesses' assets and liabilities. Now, you'll sometimes run into people that are not very financially literate like yourself, and they'll say, well, there's nothing on my balance sheet. It's a new business. And they don't even know what they don't know. They're like getting ready to stick a screwdriver into an electrical outlet because they don't realize bad things will happen if you do that. Well, if you go to funding with no collateral, with a business that looks insolvent, what do you think is going to happen? You're either going to have no, or at best scenario, little borrowing capacity, right? So none of this is rocket science. But what we're going to do is help them have a good balance sheet. And in fact, we're going to transfer over $10,000. We call that quick cash. We'll literally transfer for free, not money that they have to pay back, $10,000. So once we've done these things, now we have a fundable business. This is what it takes. Then we can go to funding. We can go to funding lots of different places. One of our favorites, though, of course, is the Chapman Fund. Chapman Fund is great. I would say it's fair to say that it's easier to qualify than going through a bank because it's from a taxing authority. But the major downside is that they only will fund up to $250,000. I've had people curse at me, hang up on me. Well, they'll say horrible things. Well, 250,000, that's bullshit. Well, let's get that and then we can move on to next. It doesn't mean that your business doesn't have more borrowing capacity than $250,000, but don't be mad. Some lenders have caps, and the Chapman Fund does have a cap. So this is what we do through the package. It's made available very affordably for participants because of the grant. And we've set it up to work with professionals like yourself so you can monetize this. How do you monetize it? Well, on the front end, we've already talked about the dollars. We just do a simple 50-50 split with you, right? And so frankly, you could reduce the client cost if you wanted, but we're just going to assume for a moment you're doing normal. So program's 5,000, grant covers half, participant pays the other half, 2,500, you're getting half, 1,250. And then on the back end, we call that a performance fee. If you wish, you don't have to, but if you wish, you can add a performance fee where after the clients are funded, they are paying you. If you want to make the upfront enrollment fee a refundable fee, you could make it refundable. People love refundable fees rather than non-refundable. So you could say, hey, it's $2,500 to participate, because it's 5,000, but the grant covers 2,500. And I tell you what, I'll make that $2,500 refundable. Just do what you say you'll do. We'll go through the process. After you're funded, they would pay you. Let's say you want to charge them 10% performance fee. It's up to you. So that would be 25,000 they pay you, and out of 25,000 you pay them back the 2,500 if you wanted. I'm not saying you have to do that, but that's the power of being the branch. Or, of course, again, they could use our buy now, pay later lender and just have 500 out of pocket to get started. So this is our website with our information. When you become a branch, which again, if you're not, it's down here to become one, we provide you editable documents. So editable proposal, editable press release, editable PowerPoint for the 10 mistakes and so forth. And so as a branch, as a distribution partner, you're going out under your own branding. Every once in a while, I'll get someone that says, well, why is that? Why do I have to go out under my own branding? Why don't I go out under yours? Well, because each of you have the ability to set your own pricing. So let's take two of you. I'll pick two of our bigger hitters. We've got Larry and Ken on the line, two of our biggest producers. Let's say Ken makes his $2,500 setup fee. Ken makes it refundable, but Larry doesn't. So there's an inconsistency. Let's say that Ken charges a 12% performance fee and Larry charges 10. So the point is, each partner gets to pick their own pricing. Therefore, there's no alternative. You have to go out under your own branding, because otherwise people are going to look and say, well, that was inconsistent. So it's up to you to set your pricing as you wish. And I think it was Thomas Kearns who's on here. He was saying what he loves about this is every day is payday. Most people are like waiting around once a week or twice a month or once a month for payday. But what's the best day for most of us? Payday. Literally, when you're a distribution partner, every day, and this is what Thomas taught me yesterday, every day is payday. Every day you should be able to help at least one client, even if you're doing this on a very part-time basis. All right, so let's see. Adam says, asking about collections. So when we're transferring over the 10,000 in assets, those are in the form of accounts receivables. So it's a true asset according to GAAP, generally agreed upon accounting principles. In other words, the regulating body of how accounting works. Accounts receivables are categorized as a current asset. So I'm getting a little deep with accounting talk, but the bottom line is this is real. And so these are real receivables that are going on the balance sheet of the participant. serves as collateral. And then what Adam's getting to is where are we in the process of being able to help clients liquidate the receivables? Because 10,000 of free receivables is great. What's even better? To liquidate it and have 10,000 of cash. So, but back to Adam's question. So we were in the process of buying a collection agency out of Arkansas, quite frankly, that had been around for over 20 years. And we were going to buy that collection agency to do the liquidation of these receivables for our clients. We agreed on pricing to buy the collection agency, and it was going to be an all-cash purchase. We didn't need financing for it. It was under $1 million. But the problem is the owner wanted to stay around, and all of a sudden, instead of just being an employee, she wanted to dictate, and she's a nice lady, but it just didn't make sense. There was just like too much hair on it, as they would say. So we decided to go ahead and form our own collection agency. We have our applications in to the bureaus. We actually had site inspection last week, which I believe we passed. We're waiting. So we should have our in-house collection agency live, I would certainly think, by February 1st. Again, beyond my control. But then that's the answer to Adam's question. Where are we in terms of having the ability to report negatively on the debtor's credit if they don't pay these bills that are part of the receivables that the client's getting? So hoping by February 1st. All right, well, I'm going to wrap it up early because at some point we've got to go take action, right? I love getting together with you and talking to you as a group or individually, but we must take action. And that's where so many of you, frankly, are failing. Like, it's like you want to make money, you want to be like Thomas Kearns, where every day is payday, but you're not taking action. So let us know what we can do to assist. If it's a different approach to training, a different topic that we need to have tomorrow or next week, fine, we'll do that. We should be having one-on-ones. Just let us know. A number of you really like that comparison sheet that we developed and circulated yesterday, where it is a different approach of explaining to a client how to become fundable and different options. But just let us know. Obviously, you know our information. Our phones are answered live Mondays through Fridays during office hours. And then, of course, you can email us as well. Thanks, everyone. We'll talk to you soon. See you back tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.